In my business, you know, I need to cover water quickly. Major league fishing, you guys have all seen how quick that happens. Same thing in the bass elites. You've got to find a pattern and a pattern quickly, and there's no better bait for me to do that than the S-Crank. You know, right here I've got a 1.2 MB Phantom, one of my all-time favorite colors in this really clear water like this. You can see through it. It really represents the bait fish that these fish up north eat well. But this bait right here, you know, I can bring it through grass, I can bring it around logs and rocks. It has a really good deflection ability to trigger those bites, and I can cover a lot of water in a short amount of time. You know, generally with squarebills, you know, they're built to deflect. That's what people want them to do, but they have to make contact with a rock, with a log, to actually make them deflect. That's what separates the Megabass, you know, STW squarebill, that it has that built-in deflection into it. You know, the hunt for center, the escape action that this bait has, you can trigger those bites in open water without having to hit something, is really something that separates it. So, you know, for me, I'm gonna throw these squarebills on, most of the time, pretty heavy line, a quick retrieve gear ratio reel. I'm gonna make multiple casts, you know, all different angles on laydowns, on logs, on docks, and try to make contact with whatever you can. Pause it, rip it, change your retrieve very, very often to figure out exactly what it's gonna take to get those fish to bite. Basically in squarebill fishing, you know, it's gonna be a bait that you're gonna wanna have tied on in a couple different situations. You know, spring, summer, fall, when the fish are relatively shallow, you know, 5 feet or less. You know, we're talking about the water temperature being in the upper 50s, you know, all the way through the summer on into the fall. Color-wise, you got a couple choices there. You know, bass are either gonna be eating, you know, crawdads, they're gonna be eating shad, they're gonna be eating bluegills. So, you know, you need to choose your color to maybe that time of year. You know, I kind of break that down. Spring, I think a lot of bass tend to focus on crayfish. Summer, I think they tend to focus on bluegills, and fall, they really focus on shad. You know, just as a starting point, those might be some areas to give you a starting point on colors to choose. Then as far as size, when I choose a size, a lot of times that's gonna be the body of water that I'm fishing. You know, some bodies of water, I don't know, throw an example out there, Ohio River, 10 pounds is gonna be a great stringer, so you're probably not gonna throw that big 2.0, you know, squarebill. You're gonna throw the 1.2, or maybe if you're down on Rayburn or Lake of the Ozarks, I'm gonna throw that bigger squarebill because they are tended to eat those bigger profile bait fish, and they're bigger fish in general. So usually a rule of thumb, I'll start out with a smaller bait, and then I'll keep moving up until I notice that they're not fully getting that bait. You know, a lot of times you'll have a fish just swipe at it. Maybe you'll get the back hook only. That's when I'll downsize to the next size smaller. You know, one misconception that I've learned through my years of tournament fishing all across this country, you know, early on, I really thought squarebills were limited to rocks, riprap, laydowns. And then we go to Florida, a complete grass lake, and you see a guy win on a squarebill, or you come up here up north over these big grass flats, you really think about it, those bass don't see squarebills in those situations. Everybody's throwing a spinnerbait or a jerkbait over that thing. That's a great time to try a squarebill. Speed to me is a real critical aspect. You know, I don't care how fast you reel, you'll never be able to reel a bait away from a bass. And so many times, if I'm not getting bit, I'm usually gonna go the other direction. I'm gonna speed that bait up. I think that's a real key deal. So many people think they need to slow it down, but in reality, you need to try to be making that bait escape away from that predator that's after it. And then with the Megabass bait that separates it from everything else, it's got that built-in escape action, that secondary bait movement that Megabass has instilled in this bait, that it's always hunting for center. It's got that escape action. It'll escape away out to the side just a little bit and then come back to center without having to hit something. Just an added attribute of the bait. It's a bait you got to have tied on, you know, spring, summer, and fall. There's always going to be a time that it's going to come into play no matter where you're at.